Conservatives don't believe life can be perfect because man isn't, and therefore utopianism is an impossibility. Leftists say, oh, you reject all forms of progress, and the two sort of square up to each other in political terms. Don't forget I'm talking about the philosophies, not the sordid little compromises of parties that in the Western world are virtually indistinguishable from each other. Now, Marxism believed, almost with post-religious ardour, as it shot religious people, that everything could be changed, everything could be reworked, that man himself could be reworked. One of the most fanatical postulates is hostility to all biological notions of man and all notions of prior inequality. The idea that in the end even human rights jargon will always disappoint, because there are always beautiful people and ugly people. There's always unintelligent people, as many of them, and there's always very intelligent people and always a range with it between. There's always people of great physical power and people who are weaklings. A very left-wing socialist friend of mine from years ago said, the trouble with you, he's speaking to me, is you're against human fairness. You're against being fair. And I said, go to a maternity ward. Go to a maternity ward, and one's born without an arm or without an eye. Others are born hale and hearty. Some are intelligent and will never have a moment's disease in their lives. Others are crippled from the very beginning, and he talked to me about fairness. And he said, maybe it's not like it should be, but we must strive to make it so. And I say, well, why don't you just accept the plenitude of that which is created? He said, no, that's too passive. We must work on it to change it, to make it better. Now, most people in their hearts in this society believe that making things more equal makes them better. I don't. I believe making them more unequal makes them better, which means you're monstrous in contemporary terms. But I believe, because the greater the space between people, the greater the prospect of transcendence, and the greater the prospect of overleaping the present, means you can actually not evolve physically but mentally and spiritually into something else. If there's nothing above you, there's nothing to aspire to. There's just endless stuff beneath you. But I'm an elitist. No contemporary, even right-wing conservative politician will admit that their party actually stands for inequality. Even in capitalism, which has endless inequalities of outcome, doesn't it? That's why you have two big classes. Of course you believe in inequality, that the Majors and the Camerons and the Haights of this world, the Duncan Smiths of this other world, they talk about liberty, and they talk about freedom, and they talk about choice to schools, choice of race, choice of gender, choice where where you go to buy stuff, and so on. Choice, but if you choose one option, you deny another. If you radically choose one thing, you disprivilege another therein. All life, even at the moment of small decisions, teems with the bias towards inequality. Discrimination. I believe in discrimination. Discrimination is a moral good and a moral law. It's an aristocratic spirituality. Of course you discriminate. You discriminate over who's your enemy and who's your friend. You don't treat people all as the same, except in some universal nididom, which only exists in the minds of people who'd like human nature to be different from what it is. People become more right-wing as they get older, on the whole. Yeah. Even within leftist systems, people actually do get more metaphysically conservative as they get older. Why is that? Because death approaches, reality approaches. They can't live with these deluded, nonsensical views about human life, which is based on inequality and glory and difference. That man is nicer than he is when human nature is dualist. Human beings are kind and nasty. They're avaricious, but they have a capacity for self-sacrifice. They're endlessly cowardly and lying, but they also have a penchant for courage and glory. That's what we are. The great religions actually always known what we are. They shift utopianism and the desire we could be different from what we are to another world.